now at 10.
It's pretty devastating.
More than 10,000 people forced to leave Midland after 2 dams fail, sending water rushing into homes and businesses.
We know that tough times don't last, but tough people do.
The message state and national leaders have for those impacted during this historic flooding.
And as crews start to get a better idea of how badly one of those dams was damaged, we're learning about a warning that may have been there all along. Why the company that owns the Edenville Dam had its license suspended just a few years ago.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Annie Satowski.
And I'm Derek Francis. First tonight, we continue to follow the situation in Midland County, where communities now underwater following multiple dam failures yesterday. Experts describing what happened with the Edenville and Sanford dams Tuesday as a 500-year event. Areas in Midland County now flooding out after days of heavy rainfall led to those breaches. State police, the National Guard, and the DNR have all been called in to help out. And while the full scope of the damage is still not known, amazingly, no deaths thus far being reported.
At this juncture, there have been no reports of casualties, which is a pretty amazing thing, and it speaks to how seriously the people of this community took this, how many times flooding has been an issue and people know what to do.
Thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes with shelters set up at local schools and community centers. Governor Whitmer now asking people to do what they can still to try and social distance, with the pandemic, of course, still very much a real threat.
And the more and more video we see coming out of that area, the more we realize how devastating it is. Our Aaron Parsegian is standing by live in Sanford, where the flooding left just a path of destruction there. Aaron.
Yeah, Derek and Annie, and right now it's actually hard to describe just how fast this water is moving and dissipating out of this area. You know, just about an hour ago, I would be up to my knees in water, and it's moving that quickly through this area, but behind it, it's leaving a path of destruction. I'm going to get out of the way. Earlier in our newscast, we showed you the damage done to businesses around the corner. We weren't able to get down this road to see what's happened here, but if you look right there, you can see that home destroyed from, it appears to be trees, other debris just smashing into it from those high water levels. You know, those water levels are dissipating at the moment, as I just said, but earlier today, I mean, those were several feet in the air, well over my head, we heard from several of the witnesses. So as that's happening, officials are keeping a close eye on the nearby dam, because any more damage to that could be even more devastating. This is what's left behind in downtown Sanford on Wednesday, after millions of gallons of water poured through Midland County from Wixom Lake, a lake normally having around 84 miles of shoreline and enough water to fill more than 32,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. It's now an almost barren pile of sand.
It's like flushing a toilet. I mean, it was amazing. We watched it, there was just a little bit of bare dirt, then all of a sudden it just started going, and you could actually watch the water rush away. I mean, it left so much faster than it came. The Sanford Dam south of the lake was the second dam in Midland County to breach under the force of the water. A grass berm almost completely wiped out. Officials are still closely monitoring the damage, which is hard because of the amount of debris crashed up against it.
Could it get worse? Yes. If the entire structure were to go and the water were to come in a very significant, serious, immediate impact, there would be a much higher surge that would come down the river, and that could raise the level much more quickly than what we're seeing right at the moment. So it is a danger, yes. They're holding out hope as water levels begin to subside. Meanwhile, places like Sanford have already felt the devastating force of the water. A downtown toppled, businesses in shambles.
I can't put it into words. I really can't. It's to see these people that their businesses are shattered, their lives are shattered, their homes are shattered. The tourism industry around here is shattered. I don't know how this area will ever recover from this.
And as I mentioned, the good news here is this water is beginning to dissipate, but there's going to be a lot of recovery that still needs to take place. Live in Sanford, Aaron Parsegian, Fox 17 News.
Aaron, thank you, and it'll be quite some time before we get to those recovery efforts, unfortunately. We continue tonight, though, with our coverage in the middle of our state. Fox 17's Julie Dunmeyer is next.
Yeah, she spoke with people along the Tittabawassee River today.
The water in downtown Midland reaching the courthouse, record level highs at 35 feet here. Many people coming here today to watch as their city washes away. It's hard to watch.
It's pretty devastating.
It's traumatic, it's terrifying.
It's kind of eerie.
Midland, Michigan, being washed away. But it's also impossible not to look.
When the Edenville Dam failed, we watched the water literally with 20 to 30 minutes, fall down 3 feet at least.
Cassie Novotny came to the banks of the Tittabawassee River to see where all the water near her home in Edenville went.
This is our road going north, and it's completely washed out.
Pictures Cassie can't seem to stop taking.
And it's not even over with. You know, what's going to happen after all the water goes and people are left to pick up the pieces.
Watching the helicopters go by.
It's just incredible. Like, we've never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime.
Watching the water rush through what used to be a parking lot.
It's really scary, it's devastating, and crazy.
Tiffany Wardinsky watched her community get swallowed, taking pictures worth more than any words I can write.
Yeah, it is. You know, there's a lot of people who've lost their jobs, you know, and some of them, what are they going to do now, you know? And they're out of their houses.
People who have lost so much on the other side of the river need to know. Those on higher ground are here, watching, waiting to help. As many as 10,000 people have been displaced as a result of this flood, as many as 500 also in shelters locally at high schools while they wait to return to their homes. But this water isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Reporting in Midland, Julie Dunmeyer, Fox 17 News.
And as crews continue to assess the damage, we're learning that the situation could possibly have been prevented.
Fox 17's Doug Reardon today has a look at what's been uncovered today.
A chopper from our sister station, WXYZ in Detroit, takes to the skies to survey the damage left behind from above. As it nears the Edenville Dam, it passes over the fields of central Michigan, wet from days of heavy rain that caused the dam to fail Tuesday afternoon. Moments later, our first aerial view of the shocking destruction. Home tops, the only thing visible above the water's peak. A car sits stranded in feet of water, washed away and carried off sometime in the night. School buses still recognizable, though they're barely visible. They're the images that will last from what experts call a 500-year flood, a road cut clean in half by the violent rush of waters. Massive trees pushed over or uprooted entirely after meeting the powerful waters head-on, even nature not spared from the ferocious flooding. And the people whose roads, shops, and homes are now gone or ruined, awestruck by a once-in-a-lifetime disaster in the middle of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. Their entire lives now covered in water that just yesterday ran peacefully through the Tittabawassee River and Wixom Lake. And Fox 17 is learning tonight of years of wrongdoing by the company that owns the Edenville Dam. In 2018, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission suspended the license of Boise Hydro Power. They were cited for failing to increase the dam's spill capacity, showing what the agency called a pattern of delay and indifferences towards the potential consequences dating back to 2004. Consequences that overnight turned this place named for paradise into a living nightmare. Doug Reardon, Fox 17 News.
It is also being reported that Boise Hydro had agreed earlier this year to sell the dam to a community group for over $9 million over the next 2 years. The governor today, meanwhile, you may have noticed, mentioned looking into legal recourse should they find wrongdoing on the part of the dam owners.
And of course, we're still keeping an eye on all that flooding. We're going to bring in meteorologist Ty Shesky now. Some pretty unreal images that we've been seeing coming out of not only Midland, but here in West Michigan, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And one development that you might take away as just a tiny bit of a silver lining is that it now appears that the worst of the flooding in the Midland area might be starting to ease a little bit. It looks like it's peaked now. The National Weather Service out of Detroit had this peaking at 35.05 feet. Now we're down to about 34.3, 34.4 feet. And the forecast is this line in purple right here. The forecast is for the river to continue to slowly fall with some fluctuation over the next several days, but there's still a flood warning in effect along the Tittabawassee River from Midland down to Saginaw, as this is not expected to fall below flood stage here until, let's see, it looks like at least Sunday, if not later than that. It might even be into the early part of the upcoming work week before that actually happens. In the meantime, in West Michigan, the Grand River at Comstock Park is now forecast to peak at 16.1 feet sometime later tomorrow, which would put that in major flood category. Not quite record, that's 17.8 feet, but 16.1 feet is still in the major category.
Good morning, Brody.
Mike, Nicole, good morning to you. Take a stroll with me downtown Midland. You can obviously, coming off of Rod Street, pulling into a parking lot which would be overlooking an apartment complex underwater. We're about 3.5 feet up to my waist right now. cars used to park here until they were forced to evacuate.
Good morning. Yes, we're just around the corner from the heart of downtown Sanford, and when they say pictures are worth 1,000 words, that's exactly what's happening here. I can't even put into words what we are seeing. Check out this one home. This is just one of several with damage like this. The foundation completely washed away in a section. So much debris in front of this house. Even if you look on the porch, it's slanted and there's just debris everywhere on this porch. And this is the case from house to house to house to house. Windows are blown out. Rooftops are pushed on the side of the road. Telephone lines are out. We have water crews and electrical crews out here working to shut everything off. But Dan Dice, who is the homeowner here, joins us now. And Dan, you evacuated, but you came back today. What are you thinking when you see your house like this?
Well, it's a little overwhelming at first. It's a little overwhelming, but you just gotta roll with the punches and keep going. Stand up and get back up there and show your kids that it's all right. It's gonna be okay.
Good morning to the both of you. We've actually got our steps in and moved our way to a residential neighborhood, the 3900 block of Valley Avenue. Take a look at behind you. I want to show you this home, which just hours ago it was completely submerged underwater. Look at the brick. You can see the wet bricks and the dry bricks showing you the line of where the water was. I'm about 6'1", the water coming up to my chin level. I mean, this house was completely underwater not just too long ago. It is finally receding. My goodness, this is obviously a direct result of the catastrophe from the dam's failure at Edenville and Sanford dams just north of here. We're in Midland right now. You're looking at water from the Tittabawassee River. It crested at 35 feet. It is slowly receding. Taking a look inside of this home, the devastation is real, people. I mean, we see couches overturned, things off the walls, the water sitting in this family's living room. Everybody has evacuated. We've been knocking on windows all morning long, trying to get a closer look to see if anybody's been left behind. Thankfully, nobody has been here. Dan, let's kind of show them the backyard as we move through this neighborhood. This is a driveway. We're walking on this individual's driveway right now, completely submerged. It comes up waist deep when you actually get into the roadway. But my goodness, debris everywhere. We've seen propane tanks floating, trampolines overturned, anything you would keep in a yard floating on the top of the water right now. Now, experts are calling what happened here the Edenville and Sanford dams on Tuesday giving way, a 500-year event. Areas in Midland County now flooding out just days after all of this took place. Now, the rain has led to multiple breaches as well, and ultimate failure of those dams. Roughly 10,000 people forced to evacuate. I don't know if you can hear it in the distance. There are a couple of alarms going off, and it's strange to even hear what my photographer pointed out, lawnmowers, because not all areas here in Middleville are underwater. It's just certain spots that are close on the floodplain. Now, we're looking at something that happened similar in 2017, but not to this extent of what people are telling me. Now, this evacuation forcing 10,000 people from their homes, some sleeping at the local high school gymnasium, others finding solstice at another residence, as the Michigan State Police, the DNR, multiple municipalities doing what they can to try and contain this chaos.
Just evaluating the devastation, and I was telling those guys, I was extremely sorry for not only Valley Drive, but for a large percentage of people in Midland. It's never going through something like this. You see it on TV, but until you go through an appreciation of actually opening the door and seeing half your life start flowing out the door, it's overwhelming.
Take a look around, people. Once again, we're standing in the middle of the street, Valley Drive, right now, in a kayak, up to our knees. This has gone down, what, about 1.5 feet since we've seen it?
Yeah, fast. We're still, what are you at, 2.5, 3 feet here?
So Mr. Jew's coming up behind you. What's his plan? Have you guys talked about what's next?
He's been through this before, not to this. I think they're still just spinning so much. They got to let the water go down. No one can get back here still. I've got a ton of PGA professionals reaching out, a ton of Midland people just trying to give support. At this point, you can't do anything. You could see you just can't get anybody back here. So I think he's still evaluating with family and see what they got to do.